Welcome to Middle Math Academy, Multiplying Decimals, level number 4. This is part of our differentiated series where we have 5 levels of challenge for every topic. Let's get started. Our learning targets today are I can find the product by using an area model and partial products. We're going to work on that on pages 1 through 3 today. And then our second learning target is I can use the standard algorithm to find the product. We're going to work on that in pages 4 through 6. Before we get started, go ahead and rate yourself before the lesson 1 through 5. 1 is the least confident in our learning targets. 5 is the most confident. After we're finished practicing today, you'll come back to this page and rate yourself again to see your growth. Let's get started with some notes. The problem we're working with in our notes is 2 3/10 times 5 6/10. Our first step is we are going to estimate by rounding our decimals. So we can round 2.3 to 2 and 5.6 to 6. And our estimated answer is 12. This is a really helpful strategy to let us know once we're finished solving if we're on the right track. If we got an answer like 120, that would be a signal that we need to go back and check our work because our estimated answer 12 is way off from 120. All right, now let's dig into our area model. The first step in drawing an area model is drawing a rectangle like you see on your notes. We're going to split one side to match the place values of the first decimal. Okay, so you can see 2.3 up here, our first decimal. And then on the other side, we'll write our second decimal, 5.6. Now, we are going to split up each of our decimals into partial numbers. Okay, so 2.3, we can split up into 2 and 0.3. And 5.6, we can split up into 5 and 0.6 or 6/10. Step number 3, we're going to write inside each of these 4 squares the product of the number directly above and to the side of the rectangle. So I'm going to zoom in on our area model real quick. Okay, so we're going to multiply 2 times 5, which is 10. Then we'll do the same thing to our next square. Directly above our next square is 3/10. And to the side is 5. 3/10 times 5 is 1.5. 2 times 0.6 is 1.2, and so on. And then last but not least, step number 4, we're going to add all the partial products. I'll zoom up a little bit. So all of the answers we got in each box, we're going to add together. Remember, when you add, your decimals have to be directly one on top of the other, super lined up. And then our answer for this problem is 13 and 88/100, which is really close to our original estimate, 12. Now let's practice with some examples. Remember, you can always pause the video if you need more time, and you can always refer back to these notes in this example if you need to. Under our learning targets, we have 3 warm-up problems. I'm going to work on the first 2 with you. Let's start with this first one. I'll zoom in. In this problem, they give us a fact with the answer, and then they ask us to find the product that has the same numbers as our original fact, except there's a decimal. So we don't need to do any math here. We're just working on placing the decimal in the correct spot. Okay, so we can see 786 and 7.86, 468, 46.8. So what we can do is we can take the answer they gave us in the fact, and we'll write out our numbers, no comma. Then we can determine where the decimal is going to go by how many numbers are to the right of the decimal. So if you're right-handed, you'll know which way is right. We see we have 1 number to the right in this number, but it's not just the first number. You have to count total for all the numbers you're multiplying. So we have 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 numbers to the right. So I'm going to go to the end of my number and I'm going to move my decimal back 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. My decimal will go right here. So the answer for this problem is 367.848 or 848 thousandths. Go ahead and complete the next warm-up problem on your own, then come back to the video to check your work. Pause the video, check your work for the second problem. Once you're finished, complete the third one on your own. This video won't go over that one, but your teacher can check it whenever you're checking in with them to get feedback. Let's take a look at our examples at the bottom of page 1. It says draw an area model and use partial products to find the answer to each problem. Circle your answer. All right, so the first step in drawing an area model and solving with partial products is we need to estimate. So I'm going to zoom in on A. And we can round 3 5/10 to 4 times 5 3/10, we can round to 5. And 4 times 5 is 20. So we can just keep that to the side and know that that is our estimated answer. The next step is we're going to draw a rectangle and we're going to partition our numbers. So we're going to take 3 5/10 and split it up into 3 and 0.5. Then we'll do the same thing with 5.3. We'll split it up, 5 and 0.3. And it doesn't really matter which number you put on top and which number you put on the side. You'll still get the same answer. Now that we set up our numbers, we can split up our rectangle. You should have 4 boxes because there's 4 total digits. Our next step is we're going to multiply. So we're going to take 3, our number on top, times 5. And 3 times 5 is 15. Then we're going to take 0.5 times 5. Now, when we're doing 0.5 times 5, this goes back to our warm-up problems. We can just remove our decimal from 0.5 and do 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. That's an easier problem. Then we just count how many total numbers are after the decimal. In this case, we just have 1 because 5 doesn't have any. And we'll move our decimal back 1 spot and get 2.5. Fill in these last 2 boxes on your own. Pause the video. Come back once you're ready to check your work. For our bottom left box, 3 times 3 is 9. There's 1 number after the decimal, so it'll be 0.9. And then 0.5 times 0.3 is 0.15. 5 times 3 is 15, and we have 2 numbers that are right at the decimal. Our last step is to add all of our partial products together. Make sure to line up your decimals, and let me give you a little bit of a neater version of this. Here's a neater version of the area model. And now we'll add everything that's underlined in purple, our partial products. Make sure your decimals are super lined up. And we get a final answer of 18 and 55 hundredths. Our original estimation was 20. And so if I have $18.55, that is close to $20, so we are on the right track. Go ahead and complete problem B on your own, then come back to the video to check your work. For B, you should have written 5 and 2 8/10. It's okay if you have the 5 on top of your rectangle. We're going to partition our numbers. 2 and 8/10, we can split up into 2 and 8/10. And then 5, we're not going to split up into anything since there's no decimal. On the inside of your rectangle, you should have the products after you multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. 8/10 times 5 is 4. Remember, 8 times 5 is 40. There's 1 number to the right of the decimal. So we just move our decimal place back 1 spot and get 4. And then our very last step is we're just going to add 10 plus 4, and we get 14. Once you're finished B, go ahead and check in with your teacher and get their initials. Come back to the video when you're ready for page 2. Complete problems A through D. Pause the video. Come back to the video when you're ready to check your work. Check your work for problem A. Check your work for problem B. Check your work for problem C. And check your work for problem D. Complete the rest of page 2, then check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. Come back to the video when you're ready for page 3. Complete A through D on page number 3. Pause the video, and once you're finished, come back to check your work. Check your work for problem A. Check your work for problem B. Check your work for problem C. Check your work for problem D. Complete the rest of page 3, then check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. Let's take a quick look back at our learning targets. On pages 1 through 3, we worked on our first learning target using the area model and partial products. Now we're going to move on to our next 3 pages and practice the standard algorithm. So let's look at page 4. Before we dive into some notes on the standard algorithm, complete A and B, then come back to the video. All right, let's go ahead and take some notes, and then we'll practice using the standard algorithm. The first step in using the standard algorithm is we're going to ignore the decimals. So we're just going to treat them like whole numbers and pretend they're not there. Step 2, we're going to line up our numbers, and it's helpful to put our number with that has more digits on top. Step 3, multiply the bottom right digit by each top digit, and we'll write the answers underneath. And it's okay if this isn't totally clicking yet. We want to have these notes so we can refer back to them when we're practicing. Step 4, add a 0 placeholder below the previous answer and shift to the next digit. Then you're just going to repeat those steps again. Once you've multiplied all of the bottom digits by the top digits, you'll add all the answers you wrote, and then we'll count the total decimal places in the original problem, and we'll reinsert the decimals that many places from the right of our final answer. So once again, it's okay if this isn't totally clicking yet, but it's important we have this to refer back to. Let's take a look at problem C. Step 1 is we're going to rewrite the problem without any decimals. Step 2, we're going to take the number that has more digits and put it on top for our multiplication. So this has 4 digits. So I'll write just like this. You want to keep your numbers spread out, nice and organized. Our next step is we're going to take our bottom right number, 9, and we're going to multiply it times each number on top. So 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36, plus 2 is 38. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 3 is 21. 9 times 4 is 36, plus 2 is 38. If you need to rewatch that again, make sure you do. So we multiplied our 9 times everything on top. Now we're going to focus on our 6, and we're going to do the same thing, multiplying it by all of the digits on top. Now we're going to move to our next digit, 6, and when we multiply 6 times 3, our first digit will be right beneath the 6, and that's why we have to put this 0 placeholder. So we'll start by doing 6 times 3, which is 18. So I put the 8 here, carry the 1. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 is 14. And 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Make sure your digits are super lined up. Then we will add everything together. Let me show you a little bit of a neater look at this. So here's what we get when we add everything together. Now we're not done yet. Our very, very last step is we reinsert our decimal. So there are 3 numbers right of our decimal. So we want to make sure that our answer has 3 numbers right of the decimal as well. So here's our final answer. Go ahead and complete problem E, then come back to the video to check your work. Check your work for problem E. Complete the rest of page 4 on your own, then check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. On page 5, complete A and B, pause the video, come back to the video when you're ready to check your work. Check your work for problem A. Check your work for problem B. Complete the rest of page 5, then check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. Complete all of page 6, then come back to the video. We aren't going to check the common misconception problem, but please check the closing problem. Once you're finished the closing problem, make sure to complete debrief A and debrief B. Once you're done the closing problem, make sure to complete debrief A and debrief B. Then go back to page 1, rate yourself after the lesson on each learning target, and don't forget to check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. Thank you for joining us today at Middle Math Academy, where we practiced multiplying decimals level number 4. This is part of our differentiated series where we have 5 levels of challenge for every topic. If you're looking for any additional practice, make sure to check out level number 1, level 2, level 3, or level 5. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.